Welcome to the channel, and a couple things I'm going to go over. Of course, the first one is definitely something I didn't expect to be talking about when we're talking about cars on a car channel, but these tariffs that have come in are actually affecting us somewhat, or at least raising some questions about the parts we need to purchase for this car. And oddly enough, this car was built 62 years ago when the tariffs were actually, or the trade agreement was in the middle of discussion between Canada and U.S. Before they finally reached the Auto Pact agreement in 65. So kind of for this car, here it is 62 years later, and the poor car is actually possibly going to get a delay on its restoration because of a trade war again. So right off the hop, I'm going to tell you this is not a political position, discussion, or anything of the sort. This is just how the tariffs are directly affecting our restoration of this car. And I can tell you just briefly that our concern right now is that we are being hit with extra costs on top of a very poor Canadian dollar. Of course, we're from Canada. And the majority of the parts, they're very specialized parts, they all come from the United States. And some of the parts that we're expecting are actually weeks away. And of course, here we are, middle of March almost, and we have no idea what the costs are that are going to be coming possibly on some of these parts. So we've sort of been forced to hit the brakes a little bit, actually, based on that. And I mean, we were hoping that by the end of the year, this car was looking very complete, and maybe by spring the following year, the car would be pretty much completely rebuilt and back on the road, so to speak. And at this point, we're not necessarily certain that that's the case. So I really hope some of this gets settled down and we can all carry on about business, the way we normally do. I mean, the concern building this car in the beginning was, do we have the skill to build it? Do we have the time to build it? And do we have the money to build it? And right now, I think skill is probably still in question. Time is, of course, always a little difficult to find, but we've been doing our best to hit it as often as we can. But we've pretty much budgeted for a certain amount of money to build this car, which is a lot of money already. And if there's going to be extra 25% incurred costs on top of some of the parts, then we are probably going to put this car to the side and work on other things that we can in the meantime. But I mean, we've got a ton of work to do anyways before it leads up to some of the purchases. But anyway, so that's the discussion. Now, I do have a new segment coming on this video, or we're going to be inserting on this video. It is called the Viewer Showcase, and I will have to put up, we have an email address. There's been a few viewers that have sent us photos of their cars, and the majority of you come here to look at cars of some sort or watch us build the car. And we want to be able to kind of share that with you guys a little bit. And instead of always looking at the cars we have kicking around here or car shows we go to, send us a couple pictures of your car or one of your former cars or your favorite car, or just email us a couple of pictures, and then in upcoming videos, we'll get you onto our viewer showcase, as we're going to call it. And I'm going to put the first one in this time so you can kind of get an idea what it's all about. Now, back to the car. So a couple of things have gone on since the last video was posted, and I'm going to start with right where I am, and then I'll work my way around to the back of it. So we've got this post further stripped here. We realized that actually much of this post was barely even there. Now, you can see on the back side here, I'll try to get it around there so you can see that inner bracket or inner post actually had taken quite a hit. And as a matter of fact, a bunch of it was cut away to accommodate, the repair that the body guy did many years ago. And we're just really fortunate that we have the driver's side so we can make templates. And pretty much what we've decided to do is rebuild this post from this point all the way down. And we're going to try to construct it and get it all fabricated before we actually cut any of this away and put it in. Of course, this remains to be seen because for us this is quite a challenge. But it has to be done, and I mean the location of some of this isn't even correct. Of course, none of the this would be the fold over from the quarter panel skin. This is just the tiny remnants of what it should actually look like going all the way down the other side. And as a matter of fact, here I'll just show you the other side we have real quick, so you can actually see this post nicely is all together. So that will be our template for fixing the passenger side post. So that's where that's at. The big cut, this took us quite a while to make a decision on this. So if you've been around for some of the earlier videos, and for those who have no idea what I'm even talking about, the gray portion you see of this car, all the gray, is actually a four-door sedan. This is where the back door would actually be. You can see that back of that post there. The white portion of everything you see on top of this car is from a two-door convertible. So the one thing that we found that became an issue for us was as we were putting this together and we got it fit, the trunk deck stuck out 1/4 of an inch roughly past this body line. And of course, there's trim that has to go on here that goes all the way along the trunk deck. And of course, the contour has to line up at the back here. Excuse me, which it does as long as the trunk is more forward. So our initial thought, as you can see, this has been separated because we actually shaved 1/4 of an inch off the entire length of the top deck of the trunk lid. And that almost got us to the fit here at the back of the car. So the only problem was we didn't make it all the way. So the next problem became that the inner portion of the trunk deck, or the inner skin, whichever you want to call it, the inner bracing, was actually hitting the top portion of the rail that supports the trunk seal here. And you can see we have the trunk seal actually in place because we were trying to get a very exact fit. And I can tell you that we took turns inside the trunk measuring and trying to anticipate or calculate how much of a gap we needed and could actually be there between here. So what we did was we weren't sure how to, our original plan was actually to sort of relieve this here and move it in, but then we didn't want to have to try to rebuild all this. So we made the decision to make these cuts, and it took a lot of calculation actually to actually relief cut it all. And that's all the way along, by the way, and down to the other side, so that we could just move this in. It turns out to be roughly 5/16 of an inch that we moved it. But with looking underneath, I took a couple of photos. I don't know if they'll turn out or not well enough to put in. But we now have this sitting on top of the rubber seal up at that part of the trunk deck. And I will actually set down there. I took some video before the trunk was in this position. There's a whole bunch of welding left to do in that. The other thing that we got caught by, and this is what led to a lot of this, is that we didn't realize, and this I will call this an error on our part because of lack of experience. So we wound up stripping a whole bunch of Bondo out of these two panels here, and then we realized that this was not on the correct plane even after we had already fastened all this. And this side wasn't too bad. We had managed to just make a little bit of an adjustment on brackets. But the other side turned into a huge mess. So we had to relief cut the brackets that are down on the tub underneath here and actually relocate them. But what happened was when we took all the Bondo out of this whole section, it had been built up well over a quarter of an inch to actually meet the trunk deck here, which resulted in, I don't know if it'll show up here. Yeah, it might show up. This whole area had been hammered and dollied so much that it was actually kind of bulbous. And it was probably an error on our part that we didn't realize it because of all the Bondo. But the location we put the bracket in on top of the tub actually made this swelled all the way up. So we made the adjustment, but this still wasn't down low enough to be relieved. And it actually still needs a little more hammer and dolly work downward. But we were forced to put this cut in here so that we could pull that back down and bring it over just a bit. And it's better. It's certainly better than it was. But we're going to work on this a little bit more. We're trying to get this trunk deck fit so that we know that plane is better. I mean, it certainly doesn't look beautiful yet, that's for sure, but at least it's in a workable position now. So that's kind of the big one. We got a bunch of welding to do. We still haven't finished the tubs. There's all the fabrication of that B-pillar on the passenger side that has to be done. But once we got this set down, and like I said, I'll insert the video of this actually sitting in place. It looks a lot better now, actually, since we've got this modified. I'm going to throw in the viewer showcase to kind of, matter of fact, I'll just throw it in right at the end. So we are trying to get a couple more days of work in here. We're really, work is taking over now, so it's busy again for regular work. But we'll keep going, and hopefully we'll have that back end kind of sorted out soon enough. And hopefully the politicians start making some agreements and get all this garbage out of our hair so, we can just continue to move on. I mean, there's great companies in the U.S. that repop the parts for these things, and they're already very difficult to find or get, and losing out on the suppliers that are confident in making the stuff we need, it would be a real bummer. So I'm going to leave you with one of our very early subscribers, Eric from Quebec. He has a beautiful 67 Mercury Cougar. As well, he's working on a 55 Meteor Niagara that he is turning into a gasser. So those are going to be coming up before I say adieu. And as well, Eric was the one to actually send us the PDF shop manuals for the 63 Galaxy, which actually holds a ton of information for the car we're working on, and we certainly haven't forgotten about that. So thanks for watching, and we will talk to you soon. Take care for now.